Chapter 37:18. Far more terrifying than great Tao Lords. The skeleton kings swung their sharp bone swords, striking at the three great Tao Lords with full force. In the real world, the skeleton kings' attacks might not be effective. Great Tao Lords there have numerous treasures protecting them, which alone could block the skeleton king's attacks. However, most of those treasures couldn't enter the soul void. Moreover, in the real world, the great Tao power that great Tao Lords could wield was far superior to that in the soul void. In the soul void, the great Tao Lords' combat power was discounted. The three great Tao Lords counterattacked with all their might, their attacks incredibly fierce, repelling the skeleton kings and even shattering them to pieces. But the skeleton kings kept coming, unafraid of death. And the fallen skeleton kings would revive in the next second, rejoining the battle as if they were endless. The three great Tao Lords exerted all their strength, barely managing to break out of the formation and sea of fire, only to find themselves in another zone of the formation. The interior of the Thousand Paths and Myriad Images formation was like a maze, with a three-dimensional structure where one anomaly zone connected to another. The four-armed realm great Tao Lord's expressions had become extremely unpleasant. Although they weren't in immediate danger, they couldn't keep fighting like this indefinitely. Lin Moyu's voice transmitted into the formation.
The rest of your companions should be arriving soon, right?
The great Tao Lord Jiu saw Lin Moyu's expression. It wasn't one of concern, but anticipation for something. He finally realized where the problem lay. Lin Moyu had anticipated their arrival all along. They hadn't come to intercept Lin Moyu, but had walked right into his trap. At this moment, he saw Lin Moyu take out a treasure, a small bell that was somewhat damaged but could still produce a clear, crisp sound. This was a primordial virtual treasure. Lin Moyu shook the bell, and its clear ringing echoed through the void. The entire void suddenly became quiet. The great Tao power ceased to flow, as if everything had sunk into silence, with only the river of time slowly flowing. Jiu's expression changed drastically. Lin Moyu had used this bell to cut off their means of communicating with their companions. Lin Moyu had deduced early on that to intercept him, they would certainly spread out. Otherwise, they wouldn't know which direction he was heading. Once one group intercepted him, they would notify the others to come. Calculating the time, it should be about right for the others to arrive. Using this primordial virtual treasure to cut off communication was to prevent them from warning each other, allowing all the big fish to be caught. Jiu, while fending off the skeleton king's attacks, called out loudly,
Lin Dao friend, there was a misunderstanding earlier. We can discuss this properly.
Lin Moyu shook his head.
There's nothing to discuss. When you mentioned the human great Tao Lord earlier, I saw killing intent in your eyes. If I'm not mistaken, that human great Tao Lord has already been killed by you, right?
Jiu didn't speak, neither confirming nor denying. But from his eyes, Lin Moyu had already gotten the answer he wanted. Lin Moyu continued,
It doesn't matter if you don't say it. You'll naturally speak later. I'm not in a hurry.
He looked into the distance. Through his undead eye, he could already see soul flames flying towards them. Soon, the aura of great Tao Lords transmitted over. Jiu had already sensed it. He wanted to warn his companions to be careful, but his voice couldn't transmit out at all. Unless Lin Moyu allowed it, within this void of 10 million miles in diameter, no sound would leak out. This place had become an isolated area. Lin Moyu patted Little Python's head, and Little Python carried him slowly into the center of the formation. The bell continued to ring, emitting clear sounds, and the void became increasingly silent. 3 great Tao Lords flew over. They were completely unaware of the changes in the void, and immediately spotted Jiu. The 3 great Tao Lords' expressions changed. They instinctively wanted to come and rescue him but stopped.
What's going on?
One of them called out loudly, though it wasn't clear who he was asking, Jiu and the others or Lin Moyu. Jiu opened his mouth, his soul vibrating, wanting to emit soul sounds. But the space was dead silent, and he couldn't transmit any sound. Lin Moyu chuckled softly, waving his hand. Flames rose up, completely engulfing the area where Zhou and the other two Great Tao Lords were. The newly arrived 3 Great Tao Lords shouted angrily.
Stop!
Lin Moyu smiled without speaking, taking out another treasure. This was a carpet, also damaged, but it didn't affect its function. The carpet disappeared from Lin Moyu's hand, and in the next instant appeared in the void, now covering 1,000,000 miles of space. The carpet spewed out endless chaotic mist, enveloping the Great Tao Lords who had come to rescue. The Great Tao Lords' expressions changed drastically. They tried to disperse the chaotic mist but found it impossible. They wanted to retreat but discovered they couldn't get out. The 3 were very close to each other, yet they couldn't see or sense each other.
Primordial virtual treasure. How can there be another primordial virtual treasure?
The Great Tao Lords shouted, but their voices were swallowed up, and no one could hear them. They would have to slowly figure out this answer themselves. Hopefully, they could understand before they died. The world-burning fire blazed fiercely in the mist, causing the Great Tao Lords to cry out in pain incessantly. They couldn't see with their soul eyes, but Lin Moyu's undead eye could clearly see their positions. Lin Moyu manipulated the 1,000 Paths and Myriad Images formation to move slowly through the void. If they wouldn't come involuntarily, he would bring the formation to them. They were being burned badly by the world-burning fire and had no idea the 1,000 Paths and Myriad Images formation was approaching. Another 3,000 skeleton kings were ready, attacking as soon as they fell into the formation. In the blink of an eye, the 6 Great Tao Lords of the Four-Armed Realm were trapped in the formation. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, they would have no chance of leaving alive. Little Python sat with Lin Moyu at the center of the formation, witnessing everything Lin Moyu had done, and flattered him.
Master is getting more and more powerful. Now you can easily trap and kill even Great Tao Lords.
Lin Moyu chuckled lightly.
Easily? This isn't the result I wanted.
Little Python asked curiously.
Great Tao Lords are already the strongest beings in the real world. In terms of strength, they're only slightly inferior to small spirit domain kings. Master can kill them with just a finger, isn't that enough?
Lin Moyu shook his head.
It's not enough. The enemy I will ultimately face is far more terrifying than Great Tao Lords.
Little Python said.
You mean the main world will, right?
Lin Moyu nodded slightly.
That's right.
Little Python said.
Little Python has a suggestion, but I don't know if I should say it.
Lin Moyu patted its head.
Just spit it out.
Little Python grinned.
Actually, Master could go find the discernment beast again. It might know how to deal with the world will.
Lin Moyu said.
It might know, but getting an answer from it comes at a price. The harder the question, the higher the price.
Little Python said.
Little Python still thinks we should ask first. What if the price happens to be something Master has?
Lin Moyu chuckled.
Of course we'll ask, but I have my own plans.
Little Python responded with an,
Oh. Oh, well, Little Python will always follow Master. If Master points east, Little Python wouldn't dare go west.
Lin Moyu knew its thoughts well and tossed it a virtual soul pill as a reward.
Thank you, Master. You're the most generous in the world.
Little Python exclaimed excitedly. Chapter 37:19. Great Tao Tribulation. Killing Great Tao Lords wasn't easy, but it wasn't extremely difficult either. It just required some time. If one day wasn't enough, then 2 or 3 days would suffice. Lin Moyu once again took out the Void Suppression Pagoda and activated it. Under its influence, the aura of the Four-Armed Tribe's Great Tao Lords rapidly declined, no longer as strong as before.
This way, we can kill them a bit faster.
Lin Moyu thought. With the methods of severance, confinement, and suppression all deployed, the 6 Four-Armed Tribe Great Tao Lords who had entered the formation were already in a hopeless situation. Suddenly, Lin Moyu furrowed his brow and looked outward. In his line of sight, a fiercely burning soul flame appeared. This soul flame was composed of 3 Great Tao Lord-level soul flames. A 3-headed, 6-armed giant appeared in the void, standing 10 million miles tall, holding 6 battle knives that slashed towards Lin Moyu's location. The knives struck the chaotic mist, but were repelled with a loud crash. The carpet maintaining the chaotic mist shook slightly. The primordial virtual treasure wasn't so easily defeated.
Apparently, the 3 great Tao lords confused into a 3-headed, 6-armed giant.
Lin Moyu observed. He knew that information had still been transmitted. The 4-armed tribe had their own communication method, which was not only secretive but also difficult to block. His earlier methods had been effective against the first 3 great Tao lords. However, the later arrivals had been informed of the situation by their companions. The 3 great Tao lords merged into one, launching a frenzied attack on Lin Moyu's location. Each slash created a multitude of giant snakes that assaulted Lin Moyu's area like a storm. The 1,000 Paths and Myriad Images formation was strong, but if attacked from the outside, it was much weaker. The combined force of the 3 great Tao lords could break through it. Primordial virtual treasures, if only used for defense, would eventually be breached. Si Zhou's voice came out.
I sense the arrival of my companions, Lin Dao friend. Your formation is strong, but it won't last long.
Lin Moyu laughed.
You're talking about this 3-headed, 6-armed fellow, right?
Si Zhou replied softly.
This is our war god. Although the war god has passed away, we can still summon his power. By combining the strength of 3 great Tao lords, we can slay even a small spirit domain king. Lin Dao friend, your primordial virtual treasures won't be of use.
Lin Moyu chuckled lightly.
Do you know where these primordial virtual treasures of mine came from?
Si Zhou was taken aback, clearly having never thought about it. Now, as he pondered, he suddenly realized something.
You killed the king of a small spirit domain.
Lin Moyu smiled.
Your tribe's 3-headed, 6-armed war god is indeed powerful, but breaking through the void ceiling carpet will still take some time. I hope you can hold on until then. I'll add a bit more to it.
Lin Moyu took out a small tree, which instantly grew to 10 million meters tall. The tree had few leaves, mostly bare and unattractive. It swayed its sparse leaves, and one leaf fell from the dark wood, flying towards the 3-headed, 6-armed giant. The leaf absorbed a vast amount of chaotic mist, growing larger and displaying mysterious, complex patterns. These patterns radiated light, piercing through the mist and shining on the giant. The leaf grew again, absorbing more chaotic mist until it became as large as the giant. It transformed into another 3-headed, 6-armed giant, wielding knives and charging out of the mist. The 2 giants clashed, their battle indistinguishable. Lin Moyu laughed.
The mirror tree is really useful.
This mirror tree was obtained after Lin Moyu killed a small spirit domain king. Its function was to replicate everything, including abilities and realms. The mirror tree's biggest weakness was that it required a vast amount of chaotic mist. Even a small spirit domain king couldn't supply enough, and without the mist, its power couldn't be fully unleashed. So, it was perfectly matched with the carpet that created chaotic mist. Together, the mirror tree could exert its full effect. The replica was slightly weaker than the original, but not by much. At least it could entangle for a while. The 2 giants fought fiercely in the void, scattering the surrounding chaotic mist. Many virtual beasts within hundreds of millions of miles were affected and died. Soon, 2 more 3-headed, 6-armed giants appeared. On the shoulder of one giant stood a 4-armed tribe great Tao lord, holding a replicated void suppression pagoda, looking majestic. At this point, all 16 4-armed tribe great Tao lords had arrived. Lin Moyu said softly,
Everyone's here.
The mirror tree swayed gently, and 2 more leaves fell, absorbing a large amount of chaotic mist and transforming into another 3-headed, 6-armed giant. The void suppression pagoda radiated light, its suppression range expanding rapidly to cover the entire battlefield. The replicated void suppression pagoda immediately lost its effect. Next, Lin Moyu took out another primordial virtual treasure, a box. Inside the box was a small wooden man. The wooden man flew out of the box and transformed into a mysterious war king. The wooden warrior charged towards the isolated Great Tao Lord with overwhelming momentum. Its power was no less than that of a Great Tao Lord. Si Jiu was stunned.
How do you have so many primordial virtual treasures? How many small spirit domain kings did you kill?
Lin Moyu chuckled lightly.
Not many, just a few dozen. These primordial virtual treasures are quite useful.
Si Jiu felt a chill.
A few dozen?
They had also killed small spirit domain kings, but they couldn't refine the primordial virtual treasures or become new small spirit domain kings. Killing them was pointless unless they could absorb their great Taos. Never had they imagined that Lin Moyu, a mere second-tier soul existence, could kill dozens of small spirit domain kings. This showed that Lin Moyu's strength in the soul void was already formidable. Si Jiu regretted their decision to provoke Lin Moyu. Not only were they themselves in danger, but the other Great Tao Lords might not survive either. Lin Moyu's methods were too numerous, and he seemed to be holding back, just playing with them. Lin Moyu's voice echoed softly.
Rest assured, after I've killed all of you, I'll go find your world. When I find it, I'll set it ablaze and refine it into nothing.
Si Jiu gritted his teeth.
Our people are innocent.
Lin Moyu shook his head.
You are a Great Tao Lord. You should understand cause and effect. If I can't find your world, it means they don't need to bear the consequences. If I accidentally find it, it means they must bear the consequences of your actions. If your world is destroyed, it will be because of you.
Lin Moyu's words were like sharp knives, piercing Si Jiu's heart. Si Jiu's expression turned extremely unpleasant. Even the most ruthless Great Tao Lord couldn't bear the thought of their own world being destroyed. At this moment, the material in Lin Moyu's palm had completely melted, and the elemental lich began to take shape. Suddenly, a rumbling sound echoed through the void, and a dark, chaotic mist appeared on the battlefield. Everyone's souls felt heavy, and Lin Moyu was surprised.
Great Tao Tribulation.
Chapter 37:20. The Darkness Falls. The Great Tao Tribulation was something Lin Moyu had only heard of, never seen. Yet, he recognized it at first glance. This was because it was a manifestation of the Great Tao itself, announcing its arrival to all. Legend had it that the Great Tao Tribulation only appeared when something defied the heavens, exceeding the limits of what the Great Tao allowed to exist. The tribulation was a punishment from the Great Tao to destroy such entities. If one could survive the tribulation, they would gain the Great Tao's recognition and be allowed to exist. If not, they would be reduced to nothing. The Great Tao Tribulation was aimed at entities that defied the heavens, and outsiders were forbidden from intervening. If external forces did intervene, the tribulation would intensify and involve those who helped. Lin Moyu hadn't expected that the elemental lich he summoned would attract the Great Tao Tribulation.
In the history of the origin continent, there have only been 2 instances of the Great Tao Tribulation. One reason is unknown, and the other seems to be due to the collapse of the divine continent. Could this elemental lich be comparable to the divine continent's cauldron?
Lin Moyu wasn't certain. He couldn't access information about the elemental lich at the moment. When the Great Tao Tribulation appeared, an invisible aura locked onto the elemental lich, creating absolute isolation. However, Lin Moyu sensed that the tribulation didn't come from the origin continent but from a distant, original ancestral land, the origin and destination of all Great Taos. As the Great Tao Tribulation took shape, the elements and the lich in Lin Moyu's palm also began to form. It transformed into a vague phantom and slowly rose from his palm. Lin Moyu saw the phantom bow respectfully towards him. In that moment, Lin Moyu felt a subtle difference about this elemental lich compared to others.
Is it because the material quality is too high?
Lin Moyu wondered, watching as it flew higher into the dark clouds. Boom! Thunder rumbled, and electric snakes danced. All Great Taos were severed in that instant. The 1,000 paths and myriad images formation halted, and all Great Tao Lords, including Lin Moyu, lost their connection to the Great Taos. The area became a true vacuum, devoid of everything, including the Great Taos. The primordial virtual treasures lost their power and hung motionless in midair. Only the world-burning fire continued to burn. Lin Moyu's heart stirred. He still had access to the immortality and death great Daos. The four-armed tribe's great Dao lords tried to take advantage of the situation to escape, but they were shocked to find themselves unable to move. The power of the great Daos had sealed everyone in place. Boom! Thunder struck again, and everyone groaned under the immense pressure, feeling as if their souls might collapse at any moment. The 16 great Dao lords of the four-armed tribe looked up with difficulty and saw the great Dao tribulation. Zhou struggled to speak.
What have you done?
Lin Moyu didn't have time to respond. He was focused on observing the great Dao tribulation. Compared to the rare sight of the great Dao tribulation, the 16 great Dao lords seemed insignificant. Killing great Dao lords could be done at any time, but witnessing the great Dao tribulation was truly a rare opportunity. The great Dao tribulation was shrouded in black mist, making it impossible even for great Dao lords to see through. Occasional flashes of lightning hinted at the turmoil within. Each thread of lightning contained terrifying great Dao power, enough to kill great Dao lords. Facing such immense power, Lin Moyu wondered if the elemental lich could withstand it. The great Dao tribulation was still forming and intensifying. Boom! A third thunderclap illuminated the void, and a massive crack appeared in the solid virtual space. Lin Moyu had never seen the virtual space broken before, even when great Dao lords used their full strength. At most, they could create a small fissure that would repair itself instantly.
The great Dao tribulation is indeed formidable. I wonder if the elemental lich can survive.
Lin Moyu's thoughts flashed by, and his expression changed suddenly. Roars echoed from the fissure, and a pair of gigantic eyes lit up.
The original ancestral land.
Lin Moyu was startled. He recognized these eyes, which belonged to a terrifying, dragon-like existence he had seen in the original ancestral land. This realization made Lin Moyu understand that breaking through the virtual space could lead directly to the original ancestral land, unlike in the real world where it was much more complicated. The four-armed tribe's great Dao lords were now paralyzed with fear, their souls trembling. The appearance of those eyes radiated an unimaginable pressure, making them feel insignificant. This was a difference in life essence that couldn't be resisted. Their bodies were completely out of control. They realized their own insignificance, and a single glance from the entity could be enough to kill them. After its appearance, the great Dao tribulation truly descended. Thunder raged, and countless lightning bolts danced within the black mist, striking the elemental lich. Those eyes seemed to be the great Dao's surveillance, watching over the tribulation. No one dared to move under its gaze. Each lightning bolt was capable of killing a great Dao lord. Facing such a tribulation, Lin Moyu felt that even he would struggle to survive. At that moment, he could do nothing but wait.
I hope it can withstand it.
Lin Moyu thought, having no other choice. The lightning continued to strike for 100 times before stopping. The black mist thinned, and Lin Moyu caught a glimpse of the elemental lich. The elemental lich still existed, unscathed.
It survived.
Lin Moyu felt a surge of joy, but it was short-lived. Suddenly, a fierce flame erupted from the giant eyes, transforming the tribulation into a ball of fire. The lightning was followed by flames. The tribulation continued. The flames raged, and the temperature soared.
The great Dao essence fire.
Lin Moyu recognized it as the true great Dao essence fire, similar to his world-burning fire but fundamentally different. Compared to the previous lightning tribulation, Lin Moyu wasn't too concerned about the great Dao essence fire. The elemental lich was born from the immortality fire, which was not weaker than the great Dao essence fire. Lin Moyu thought there wouldn't be a problem. However, the four-armed tribe's great Dao lords didn't share his optimism. Seeing the great Dao essence fire, they trembled even more, their eyes filled with fear. As spiritual entities, they feared the great Dao essence fire more than anything. The great Dao essence fire burned fiercely, marking the end of the great Dao tribulation. The fissure in the virtual space began to close, and the giant eyes gently shut. In the moment the eyes closed, Lin Moyu felt everything go black. He seemed to fall into endless darkness, unable to see or hear anything. The sky had truly darkened. Chapter 37:21. The Fearsome Elemental Lich. As the eyes closed, the sky turned dark, and Lin Moyu fell into darkness. The great Daos receded, his powers were sealed, and all his senses disappeared. His soul seemed to enter a truly void space where nothing existed, not even thought. Fortunately, this state lasted only for a brief moment. Light returned, and his senses gradually recovered.
What a terrifying ability!
Lin Moyu thought, awestruck. The opponent had merely closed their eyes, yet it was enough to render Lin Moyu helpless. If this were an enemy, a single glance could be fatal. Even a powerful great Tao lord like himself would be as insignificant as an ant before such an existence. This reminded Lin Moyu of a scene he had once witnessed. The green-robed old man clapping his hands, causing countless invincible warriors to fall.
This is what a true supreme being looks like.
Lin Moyu became even more eager to reach such a level of strength one day, surpassing it if possible. At that point, he wouldn't need schemes or plots. His fists alone would be enough. As his vision returned, Lin Moyu saw that several four-armed tribe great Tao lords were still in a daze. With a thought, the thousand paths and myriad images formation restarted, and the giant created by the mirror tree launched another attack. Under the assault, the four-armed tribe's great Tao lords snapped out of their trance, returning to the situation before the great Tao tribulation. Lin Moyu ignored them and looked towards where the great Tao tribulation had appeared. There, a fist-sized, jade-like doll was shining brightly. Having survived the great Tao tribulation, its existence was now recognized. However, Lin Moyu couldn't sense any information from it, unlike before when he could clearly perceive the elemental lich's data in his mind. Despite this, Lin Moyu still felt a connection to it, knowing it was his elemental lich and that he had absolute control over it. This strange feeling was likely due to the special material used. The elemental lich flew before Lin Moyu, trailing a long, glowing tail, and let out a clear, playful laugh. In the laughter, the elemental lich's voice suddenly echoed in Lin Moyu's soul.
Master, Master, I've transcended.
The voice was directly from the soul, audible only to Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu was slightly surprised.
You can speak?
The elemental lich replied immediately.
I can speak.
The previous elemental lich had shown emotions but wasn't yet capable of speech. It had a bit of spiritual intelligence but was far from true wisdom. True wisdom required self-awareness and the ability to think independently. Lin Moyu asked,
What's your name?
The elemental lich responded,
I was just born and don't have a name yet. Master, please give me one.
Not only could it speak, but it didn't even pout or act cute. This was good, as this innate spiritual intelligence was far better than using the world fruit to awaken it. Lin Moyu smiled.
Tell me, what abilities do you have?
The elemental lich waved its fist.
My ability is the sword.
As it spoke, its fist transformed, growing a sharp sword tip. Then, its entire body changed into a slender sword, less than a meter long, emitting a sharp aura. Lin Moyu grasped it, and a hum filled the air as a great Tao appeared behind him. The great Tao was filled with countless floating swords. Lin Moyu was amazed.
The sword Great Tao? You've inherited the abilities of the sword Great Tao.
Previously, there was the 5 elements sword lich, which also inherited the sword Great Tao's abilities. However, Lin Moyu felt a difference between them. Lin Moyu realized that the sword Great Tao hadn't entered the origin ancestral land, meaning it couldn't radiate throughout the soul void. It could only be effective in worlds that possessed the sword Great Tao. But now, the Great Tao behind him was clearly the sword Great Tao. This meant it might not have originated from any specific world, possibly coming from the origin ancestral land itself. Lin Moyu felt he could fully control the sword Great Tao through the elemental lich, though this control was slightly different from his own. He didn't need to comprehend or understand the sword Great Tao. He could control it entirely through the elemental lich. The sword vibrated slightly, and the elemental lich's clear laughter echoed in Lin Moyu's soul.
Master, I'm amazing. I can control this great Tao.
Lin Moyu nodded.
Very impressive. Let's see how strong you are. Attack that guy with a new sword.
Lin Moyu targeted one of the four-armed tribe's great Tao lords, the one holding a replicated void suppression pagoda. He was currently battling a wooden warrior, whose strength was slightly inferior, allowing him only to entangle without gaining the upper hand. The elemental lich said,
My power can only be fully unleashed when used by the master. If I act alone, I can only use 70% of it.
Lin Moyu thought for a moment.
70% is enough. Cut him down. Understood.
The elemental lich shouted happily and shot out of Lin Moyu's hand, flying towards the great Tao Lord. A brilliant sword light flashed, and a massive sword appeared in the void, slicing through it as if opening the heavens. The great Tao's power surged wildly, creating countless fissures in the virtual space. The wooden warrior quickly retreated, clearing the battlefield. The sword great Tao locked onto the opponent, making it impossible for even a great Tao Lord to escape. The four-armed tribe great Tao Lord screamed, throwing out the replicated void suppression pagoda to block the sword light. The pagoda expanded rapidly but was cut through like tofu, unable to withstand the sword.
Impossible!
The great Tao Lord shouted, unleashing all his power and throwing out two more virtual class treasures. However, these treasures only weakened the sword light slightly. The elemental lich cried out,
I'll cut you down.
The voice was clear and childlike, contrasting sharply with the intense situation. Unfortunately, only Lin Moyu could hear it, making him stifle a laugh. The four-armed tribe great Tao Lord screamed, retreating while continuously throwing out treasures.
Treasures are indeed plentiful.
Lin Moyu muttered to himself. It seemed the four-armed tribe was skilled at crafting, able to produce so many primordial virtual treasures. One by one, the treasures were sliced apart until the sword light pierced through the great Tao Lord. The great Tao Lord's screams filled the air as he was sliced and sent flying tens of thousands of miles. His soul severely damaged. He didn't look back and fled. Lin Moyu thought,
Don't let him escape. Kill him.
The elemental lich giggled.
He can't escape.
Saying this, the elemental lich transformed into a sword light and chased after the great Tao Lord at a speed faster than his. If nothing unexpected happened, the four-armed tribe great Tao Lord wouldn't be able to escape. Lin Moyu thought about the previous sword strike.
Very strong, but this isn't the strongest yet. Where does his sword great Tao come from? It doesn't seem to be from the origin ancestral land.
Chapter 37:22. Replicating the Great Tao. Lin Moyu pondered the relationship between the origin ancestral land and the myriad worlds, as well as the specific situation within the origin ancestral land. He had entered the origin ancestral land before and knew what it was like inside. He understood how the great Taos manifested as existences and how their projections were obtained in various worlds. Additionally, there was the return to origin land, where the great Taos were reflected across the entire soul void. After analyzing and eliminating various possibilities, Lin Moyu finally understood the situation with the elemental lich's great Tao. It wasn't a projection, nor was it the true body of the great Tao. Instead, it was a replica of the great Tao's true body. The elemental lich had replicated the true body of the great Tao from the origin ancestral land. This explained why it displayed such incredibly powerful great Tao abilities. It could also ignore the relationship between the great Taos and their projections in the soul void because, in a way, it was the great Tao itself. Lin Moyu chuckled self-deprecatingly.
I thought I understood the elemental lich's true use, but I didn't expect such a huge surprise. It replicated the true body of the great Tao. No wonder it attracted the great Tao tribulation. It's truly too heaven-defying. If so, with the right materials, I could replicate various great Taos. Perhaps I could even build my own origin ancestral land. But if I were to bring these great Taos back to the multiverse, the great Taos of the multiverse would be directly destroyed.
Lin Moyu felt his thoughts were overly ambitious. The multiverse needed great Daos that evolved naturally, allowing it to absorb some external great Daos but not be completely replaced by them. Otherwise, his world wouldn't remain independent. Boom! Suddenly, a thunderclap echoed from the depths of the void, and the virtual space cracked open with flashing lights. Lin Moyu heard a cry of pain and felt a surge of tension. The elemental lich had been struck by lightning again. This lightning was even stronger than the one during the Great Tao Tribulation. The long sword transformed from the elemental lich flew back, still carrying residual lightning. It didn't seem very stable as it returned. After returning, the elemental lich transformed back into a doll form. The lightning hadn't dissipated and continued to crackle on its surface. Lin Moyu asked,
"What happened?"
The elemental lich replied with a hint of grievance.
"Master told me to kill that guy, so I did. Then this lightning came. There was someone very powerful who warned me not to kill great Tao lords indiscriminately. I can only kill them occasionally."
Lin Moyu immediately thought of the owner of the eyes from the Great Tao Tribulation. It was likely them who sent the warning. The elemental lich was too heaven-defying, disrupting the balance. It could easily kill great Tao lords, making Lin Moyu nearly invincible in the soul void and possibly even in the real world. Such an existence, even after surviving the Great Tao Tribulation, would still be monitored by the Great Daos and not allowed to do anything too outrageous. This was the balance of the Great Daos of heaven and earth. If this balance couldn't be maintained, the entire universe might collapse. Lin Moyu said,
"In that case, you should refrain from acting for now."
The elemental lich replied with some resentment.
"Okay, I won't act for now. But once this lightning dissipates, I can act again."
It seemed quite optimistic, laughing after a moment.
"Master, you haven't given me a name yet."
Lin Moyu thought for a moment.
"Let's call you Sword Tao Lich."
It had replicated the true body of the Sword Great Tao, possessing everything the Sword Great Tao had. In a way, it was the Sword Great Tao itself, making the name fitting.
Sword Tao Lich, yes, yes. I have a name now, Sword Tao Lich.
It was delighted, jumping up and down. The name clearly pleased it. When not transformed into a sword, it was a cute, doll-like creature. However, once it acted, it became the most terrifying killer god, capable of slicing through great Tao lords with the sword Great Tao. Lin Moyu put away the sword Tao Lich and continued to observe Sijio and the others. They were still trapped, unable to escape the thousand paths and myriad images formation. Lin Moyu's methods were too numerous, leaving them despairing. As they struggled, Lin Moyu would eventually target the rest of their tribe. Everyone would be in danger.
This can't go on.
Sijio made a decision, his eyes filled with determination. Enduring the pain from the world-burning fire, Sijio's aura surged wildly. His power exploded, finally breaking through the thousand paths and myriad images formation. At the same time, a great Tao appeared, and in the next moment, his soul exploded along with the great Tao.
Escape, quickly escape.
Sijio's voice echoed through the void as he detonated his own great Tao, scattering his soul. This was his final act of dignity, leaving behind a message for his tribe to flee. Lin Moyu couldn't stop this. The thousand paths and myriad images formation was blasted with a large hole, but it wasn't significant damage for the formation. The other 5 great Tao lords remained trapped. Suddenly, another great Tao appeared. Boom! The thousand paths and myriad images formation was blasted with another massive hole. Another 4-armed tribe great Tao lord detonated their own great Tao, leaving behind a final message in the void.
Escape quickly.
2 great Tao lords had detonated themselves, simply to tell their companions to flee. This act earned Lin Moyu's respect. Although they were enemies in a life-or-death struggle, their spirit was admirable. The 3-headed, 6-armed warrior avatar suddenly turned and left the battlefield.
They really listen.
Lin Moyu didn't chase after them. The great Tao lords wanted to escape, and he couldn't catch up. However, he couldn't do nothing. He took out a primordial virtual treasure, a jade-like disc. A few drops of transparent water appeared on the disk and flew out, heading towards the escaping Great Tao Lords. The water droplets moved extremely fast, seemingly able to traverse the void. They attached silently to the Great Tao Lords and quickly dissolved, leaving invisible marks on their souls. The Great Tao Lords didn't notice the marks. The disk revealed their general direction, and Lin Moyu muttered to himself,
"This way, I can find their lair."
Lin Moyu didn't just kill Great Tao Lords. That wouldn't benefit him. He wanted the entire world of the Four-Armed Tribe. Since the Four-Armed Tribe's Great Tao Lords had tried to kill him, a cause and effect relationship had been established. Ultimately, either he would die or the Four-Armed Tribe's world would be destroyed. In this aspect, Lin Moyu was ruthless when slaughtering countless tribes. He never showed mercy, knowing that a little kindness might lead to disaster. Either he wouldn't act, or if he did, he would ensure a clean kill.